Assed, thanks for coming along today.
Thank you.
Do appreciate it. You've been president now for almost a year, almost coming to the end of your term come March when you got elected. Would you say so far over the period of your presidency you've represented the widest range of views on campus, and do you think you're a fair and balanced president for Staffordshire Students' Union?
First of all, I've been president for about 4 months. For 5 months, I still the presidency ends in about July. The elections happen in March,
Right.
and I think I have. I think I stood on a clear manifesto. I think it was very clear for people to know what they were voting for. It was very clear that I would be a campaigner, an activist that worked on anti-racism, anti-fascism issues, that would campaign for a free education, that would campaign against the war, and have a message of fund education, not war, that would campaign for better accommodation, that would work for a free shuttle bus, and all these issues. So I've tried to represent the broadest amount of opinion that I can. It's totally impossible for one individual to represent 16,000 students. I think that's very, very difficult. But what we have in the union is not just about one person, it's about the number of officers we have. We have over 20 officers, 4 other full-time officers, and we have other part-time officers as well.
So you'd agree with the statement that you say that you're balanced across the board on all of the issues?
I think so. In terms of, depends what you mean by balanced. If you mean that I show both sides of the argument, I think that's kind of impossible sometimes.
So you don't think that showing both sides, you have to be? So you're not saying that you can be
a
fair on everything?
I'm not a journalist. I'm not here to produce a report. I stood in a clear manifesto. So if you're saying that I'm going to campaign against the BNP, and the balanced argument would be that I would also show the pro-BNP side. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. The same for the anti-war stance. I'm an anti-war campaigner. So the balanced side of that would be that I would show the pro-war war side. So it doesn't work that way. I stood in a clear manifesto. People knew what they were voting for, and I represent that opinion.
Would you say with the issues that you've had recently regarding the local police officer being banned from the top floor of the Students' Union, how many people complained to bring about that action?
Sometimes it's not about people complaining, because we have to remember that democracy is not only about representing the majority, it's about guaranteeing representation for the minority. So if at a time the university, the union, and the wider society, especially the government, are trying
But how many people actually complained?
If you think about when they're talking about widening participation, and if you set up barriers...
Yeah, but you're not answering the question. How many people complained?
I think I had concerns from 2 students, and as far as I'm concerned, that's enough for them to feel uncomfortable, because there's many other students that won't feel confident to come forward, and we want them to make them feel confident to come forward. So
2 students represented, and the police officer gets removed from the building.
Doesn't get removed. If removed would mean that he was there in the first place. So, and also a ban would mean that we've suddenly passed some policy to ban him. What we're saying is that we're happy to work with the police. He's arrived in the Ember Lounge and the LRV, and we continue to work with them, and we work with our safety campaign. However, we're saying the office space upstairs, we don't want the police there unless they're pre-arranged. It's the same in Parliament. The police are not allowed into Parliament without pre-arranging it.
Bearing in mind,
I don't think it's any different.
Bearing in mind the 2 students complained, and that action got brought about, would you say that the thousands of students, the over 1,000 students who joined the Facebook group to have you removed from presidency, do you think that because you listened to those 2, surely you should be listening to those as well? Are you listening to those 1,000 students?
But that's on the premise that all those thousands of students, firstly, not all of those people in the group are students. A lot of them displayed racism and Islamophobic slurs. So I'm not just going to forward just because of a Facebook group. I was voted in by students.
But do
so
you
if those
think
if those students want their say, they have to have it.
Do you not think that that group, though, given the level of support that's been raised on it, and given the fact that there are now currently, as I believe, the group that got closed down, you're right, it was closed down for alleged racist remarks. I didn't see the group, but there's 600 now in the current group. Yeah. 600, that's more than 2. Even if half of them are students, yeah, but that's still a lot of students. Would you say that those students should be listened to as much as those 2 as well?
But that's on the premise that those 2 are campaigning and bringing about the same issue, and it's not. It's not about the same issue. A lot of this stuff is very, very personal, and if you look at the comments made, they're very personal. So I'm not just going to bow down just because, even if there's 600 people in a Facebook group, just because they say I should resign. It doesn't work like that. I was elected in, and I have a responsibility to represent those people that voted for me, and the wider student population. Those students will have their say, and they can have their say. I'm open for a debate and discussion, and I've offered people to have a debate and discussion. But what some students prefer to do, and a minority of vocal students prefer to do, is
it's hardly minority though, is it?
What I'm saying is that this has been led by a minority of students want to whinge over Facebook rather than engage in a face-to-face discussion with me. I think that's the problem, because when people sit behind a computer screen, they become very brave and start saying stuff that would not be accepted in wider society.
But the fact still stands, there are a lot of people, we'll say, won't put a finger on it, but there are a lot of people who don't want you as president because of the actions that have happened recently. We'll refer back to another incident about releasing the BNP members list, which was done a couple of weeks back. You published it on the Students' website. It's now been removed.
Sorry, firstly, I didn't release the BNP list.
It was published on the website under your decision.
The list wasn't published on the website. The link to
the link to the list was published on the website.
I think there's a very clear distinction there, because if people that want to find who the local BNP members are, they can click
regardless
on,
of who and what the link is and whether or not the names are on the page. I think a page that has that and has it outlined on there is clearly directing somebody, a viewer, to the Students' Union website. A visitor would see this and they'd see that the Students' Union president is directing people to draw attention to the fact that there are people who live near to Staffordshire University who are BNP members. Now, you released the list based around...
Released the link, sorry.
You released it. What did you release the link? What did you set out to achieve from doing that?
I think it's important for students to know if there's BNP members living within the local vicinity. I think the reason for this is we have 30 BNP paid-up activist members living within a 2-mile radius of the university. If a student, a black or Asian student, is going to rent a house, and I myself and many other students would be concerned whether they're going to be living next door to a BNP member, because come election time, that house could be a campaign centre.
So you're saying that basically...
So I'm not saying all students agree with it. Would I republish the link? No, I wouldn't.
So you're saying that the BNP members would be a threat directly? You believe that...
Of course, yes, the BNP
so you
are
say
a threat.
that
The BNP, Nick Griffin's a convicted racist. It's a fascist organisation that target people on the basis of their skin colour. And I think that, to think that the BNP are not a threat is extremely naive. I think the evidence suggests otherwise. If you look at the nail bombers...
But what did you set out to achieve? Did you expect this type of backlash that when you put that link up? Or do you think you've maybe shot yourself in the foot a bit by doing this?
I don't think I've shot myself in the foot. To be honest, I didn't expect the backlash. However, I think what we've done is we've got people involved in the union, at least they recognise it, and at least people are debating and discussing the issue of racism and the fascist BNP.
So you wouldn't believe then that you think that your reputation potentially has been tarnished, potentially maybe you're being put in a corner, potentially maybe some students, you don't see that
I'm not
potentially
the kind of
the
guy
student...
that gets put in a corner. I think that anyone that knows anything about me knows
But surely the campaigns that have come out of your office, most of them have been race and war orientated. And surely...
See, there's two different things. One's race and one's war.
Race and war, but we'll concentrate on race because race is the most up-to-date list. We'll concentrate on that.
Okay, how many campaigns have I done on race?
I don't know off the top of my head, but surely, as a new student, as myself being a student, coming to this university, joining in September as a student, I have, as I think many students would agree with me, that the anti-racism, not that it's a bad thing, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to do this, but would you not say that the amount of concentration that you're putting on this issue is pigeonholing yourself to potentially make yourself look like you've got maybe almost extreme views?
Look, firstly, you can't tell me how many events I've had on race. I had one event...
You've got a race coming up tomorrow.
Hear me out. As a response to what's happened, I had one event called How to Fight Fascism. That's one event. We had we took one kosher demonstration against the war. That's one event. If you look in comparison to the stuff that I've done around free education, around the lobbying of the university, around accommodation, I got the rent price lowered at Carlton House. I got the standards lifted on those areas. We're working on free printing. The amount of representation work I do in terms of disciplinaries and representing individual students' needs far outweighs this. So when you say most, I think that's incorrect because there's only one event each, right? Secondly, when you talk about race, look, I think it's an issue. We have 9 BNP councillors here. We have 2 MEPs.
You're right. MEPs, there is an issue. However, you're still pigeonholing yourself.
When you say that most, you seem to put across that somehow this is a wrong thing to do. I think you have to look at society and you have to look at the campus and say, look, what is needed? Are there issues? Because the union has a responsibility not only to represent but to educate and help the student experience. And it's our responsibility, and I was voted on for that very clearly. That was an anti-racism, anti-fascism campaigner, and I've concentrated on only a small part of my efforts on that, and I think that's where you're making a mistake, because most of the events haven't been on race. My contention is that most of them have been against fighting racism and fighting fascism, not concentrating on race.
But surely, then, do you feel proud? Would you say that the results that you've gained from this? Do you think that this issue with the Staffordshire papers running articles saying that people want you out, do you think surely you must go home every night and think, you know, oh, people are behind me on this, based on the amount of negative
I go home
publicity
every
that
night.
you're getting?